Good morning. This is Jason Moss with the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance and Manufacturing News Network. We got a great day lined up. We're going to be talking a little bit about human resources and safety through the as companies are dealing with the coronavirus. We've got a lot of manufacturers that are still active and working, and some that have been parked for a little while. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the space, what the projections are, and maybe share some best practices of what's working and what's not working in the production environment. So with that, what we want to do, we're going to have an opportunity today is to again, we're going to share my brain just freaking stopped. Sorry about that. We'll circle back around just a second. But again, our goal is to be able to share these best practices. And so what I'd like to do, I do want to introduce a good friend of mine from Southwest or West Georgia. He's on the line with us. He does not have his camera fired up, but Mr. Jamie Jackson. Jamie is our chapter director for West Central Georgia, and he's been engaged with GMA for several years, and we really appreciate his insights and inputs. And what I'd like to do, Jamie, if you want to, can you hit the unmute button on your phone there? I'll bring it online. Okay, I got it for you. So, James, can you hear us? Okay.
Yes, I'm good. Good morning.
All right. Good morning, James. Good morning. Glad to have you on the line with us. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pitch you right under the big bluebird bus right off the bat. If you would share with us, for the folks that have not had a chance to meet you yet, tell us who you are, what's your role with your company, your role there, and then your engagement in GMA. So tag, you're it.
Okay. Well, I am Jamie Jackson. I do know some of you. I'm trying to go through the video and see everybody's face. I am the Executive Vice President of Malone Workforce Solutions, a 360-degree staffing and recruitment firm. I personally live in LaGrange, Georgia. I tend to spend more time probably on the salaried direct hire end of things personally, but do a lot with our clients in terms of client management on the staffing side. And then in terms of what I do with GMA, I am the West Central Georgia chapter director, which gives me Troup County, Carroll County, Columbus, Noonan, that kind of market, if you will. And do appreciate Jason for putting this together this morning. It's good to talk to everybody.
We're glad to have you on the line with us. So we're going to pick your brain a little bit about what you see in the staffing space currently, and then what kind of strategies you see coming out of this. What are some of the things that people might need to be looking for? We do have, I know that the automotive industry is taking a pretty good shot right now, and there's going to be a lot of retooling that comes along with that. What do you see right now? How are things looking in West Georgia to start off with? What's it looking like out there? And what do you see in the immediate future? Do you see stuff kind of lightening up in the West Georgia market?
Well, I mean, with the exception of the automotive side, most of our manufacturers are still running production. I know Interface went back today.
Okay.
Clearly, they're, all of our manufacturers here are really going through these crisis management teams, if you will, updating their cleaning and sanitation protocols. They're really spending a lot of time on identifying what exactly are their critical operations and labor needs. So for the most part, we're running, but then at the same time, the automotive side, as we all know, is somewhat slow right now. Kia, for example, is just announced they're going to stay down until April 27. That obviously impacts their suppliers as well. And a lot of that is, supply chain with GM and Ford and other OEMs being down. Getting parts has become very difficult. Mexico has had a lot of issues due to coronavirus. So a lot of parts that need to come in from Mexico can't get here. And so that in addition to all the other things that is going on, is what's contributing to a lot of the automotive slowdown. In terms of what's coming back, I mean, from my industry perspective, we're always the first. We always kind of precede the recession, and we're always the slowest to come back from a recession, at least on the hourly staffing temporary side.
Okay.
But I do think that now, if I were advising clients or anyone at that point from a staffing perspective through all this, is you have a ton of people that are on unemployment right now. Mm-hmm. I would say now is probably as good a time as any to be advertising for your company and advertising for your jobs. If nothing else, you're going to gain a new database of contact information and applicants and people that is going to be important for you to have in your intellectual property database moving forward.
That's genius, Jamie. I mean, again, we've talked about a bunch of different things, and I'm thrilled that you're able to join us and, kind of share that insight, because that's one thing I wouldn't have thought of really. There's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of folks that are sitting at the house with a lot of time on their hands and might be considering making a change. So, man, that makes sense. And from the staffing side of it, I mean, are you seeing more engagement now with companies working with you, or are you at capacity? You looking for other companies to work with?
Well, I think we're always looking for other companies to work with. But I mean, again, we're always, in my industry, we're always the first to go prior to a bit of a recession dip. And we're always the last to come back. People are going to fill their direct hire and full-time pieces first before they bring in the temps. Now, I would say that a factor that could change that and make this cycle a little different is the fact that we don't know if this is seasonal.
Right.
And my business is obviously somewhat cyclical and seasonal to meet demands of whatever the customer may have. So let's just call it a peak and a valley, and it's not necessarily production volume or demand at this point. It could be that this, for the foreseeable future, is a cyclical seasonal thing. So in that case, I would say that your safer bet is to go to more of a hourly temp staffing model, just in the event that you have another layoff coming again in the future.
Okay, that gives you a lot more flexibility as a business to be able to bring those on so that you can make that change if it comes up. I think that's one of the biggest. We had a great team meeting this morning with our crew, and we kind of hashed through a lot of, what's working and what's not, what's next steps, what can we be doing? How can we better serve our members? Mm-hmm. Right? So those are the things that we're trying to figure out.
It says your name.
Hold on just a second. So all of us are struggling trying to figure out the best strategy, what's next. On the flip side of that is, what can we do to serve today and in the next 2 months? And then we don't need to change our business model 100%. We don't think right now, because we think we're going to get back to somewhat normal eventually. Right. So we don't want to walk away from the stuff that has worked for years and what our customers know us for. But at the same time, we need to serve for now. So, and if this, and we've been talking through our team, is, Georgia right now, they're saying the peak is going to be April 26th is what Governor Kemp said yesterday, is what all the models indicate, that the peak in Georgia, April 26th. I have serious doubts that Georgia is going to be wide open May 1st. I mean, the reality is my projection, and I don't have any solid data to back this up, is it's going to be mid-May at the earliest before we, start seeing an all clear or go back to work kind of thing for the companies that are restricted, and maybe towards the end of May. What are your thoughts around that? What are you seeing, or what do your tea leaves say, Jamie?
Well, I mean, I do think that as we start to come back, there's going to be more and more guidance from the state, federal, local municipality on how exactly they want you to do that.
Right.
I mean, clearly, like I said, from an administrative perspective, I'd say you're going to need that crisis management team to put together your response plans, to update your cleaning and sanitation protocols, determining how employees are to report confirmed, suspected, or quarantined cases, if you will. And communication and education is going to be vital as we start to come back. You're going to need to develop your own communication protocols for training, any new requirements and guidelines for your employees, new signage, posters communicating general information, physical distancing as we continue to work through that. One of the things that I'm seeing that's going over really well right now is having a regular Q&A. One of my clients, for example, has set up a Q&A for their employees who are currently furloughed. And then, their goal is to every 24 hours, basically select those questions, answer them, and then post them so that they're trying to get as many answers to their furloughed employees as they can.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And then I also think that one thing that we're going to see more than not is I think you're going to see that social distancing is probably going to have to be practiced more when production resumes. And so you could start to see more stagger shift starts and finish times and breaks, even down to considering taking a 5-day operation and extending it into a 7-day operation, which is not probably what a lot of people want to hear, but in order to meet those social distancing guidelines, we may have to look at a 7-day production plan to stagger everything out, to space it out properly. Okay.
Interesting. I tell you, you gave me definitely some good stuff to key on there for sure. The training aspect, getting people back to work, so we're still, I think, in the heat of the battle, trying to figure out what's next, what's, how to prepare, how to make sure that we manage our social distancing, the companies that are closed and shuttered right now. That decision's been made. The companies that are still alive, open and running, essential businesses, they're working through it and have figured out a way, to maintain business. But in that transition back is going to be really different. The training and signage, that's another thing that I, hadn't given a ton of thought to, but how to bring these employees back. What is it that they're going to need to be able to do, and so that we can keep them open, right? Hopefully there won't be a resurgence or, round 2 of this virus. We're praying that once we're done with it or pretty close. But making social distance more of a standard in our business is going to be, that's a new normal, for sure. Well, Jamie, this has been really, really helpful. What are some of the other things that you guys have seen on the staffing side that's working? If you think that other manufacturers might benefit, we got a couple other manufacturers on the line with us today. What are some insights that you think that you've seen work with other companies? I love the FAQ, every 24 hours. Anything else that pops up that you think might be helpful?
Well, I mean, I've seen people with larger workforces already start looking at establishing zones to separate employees in isolated work groups. Clearly, what we're already doing now with holding meetings via teleconference, if it can be done that way, right, I think we'll certainly see that moving forward. One other thing I want to just point out that may or may not affect any of the employers that are on this call that I didn't really realize until, I guess, early last week, was part of the payroll protection plan for what is deemed as a mid-sized company. And what they defined mid-sized company as was 500 to 10,000 employees. Okay. Clearly, that may or may not impact anyone here, but I still think the point is well needed that in the event that an employer mid-size accepts the payroll protection plan, which is the loan portion, you agree to several things. There's a list of about 10 things that come along with that, but I want to specifically point out the 3 pieces that go specifically to labor that I think can affect a lot of Georgia employers through this. One is that you will not outsource or offshore jobs for the duration of the loan plus 2 years.
Okay.
The second piece of that, and outsourcing could very well be my industry, could be temps.
Really?
I don't think it's, outsourcing is not clearly defined in the bill. It's a outsource or offshore. It's not a both. The other thing is, if you are currently in a collectively bargained agreement, you will not abrogate that agreement for the duration of the loan plus 2 years.
Wow.
And then the third thing is that the company that has accepted that PPP loan agrees to a neutrality statement in a union campaign for the duration of the loan.
Okay, so can you explain that just a little bit on the neutrality statement?
Well, when you agree to neutrality, that means that you essentially agree to step back. You're not really your allowances in a organization effort are very much handcuffed, if you will. In a neutrality agreement, you kind of agree to step back and let your employees decide. The union can come in and do education, but it somewhat hampers the company's ability to do education through that campaign, even down to, for example, you could not, in previous cases, a neutrality statement would preclude the company from requesting a secret card ballot election in a union campaign. Therefore, the card check would be what you're allowing as an employer.
Interesting. So that would really open up a lot of access for union organization inside of companies, maybe, that, is that right? Am I
correct? And that neutrality statement lasts for the duration of the loan. So if it took your company, 4 years to pay back that loan, you would be agreeing to into a neutrality statement for that period of 4 years in that example.
Okay. Now that's with the EIDL, is that right? Or is that with the PPP? Because PPP is forgiven if it's 75% is used for payroll, then the entire loan gets forgiven, right? That's the way I understand it. So if that's only in the case is if there's a loan extending beyond the forgiveness period, right?
That hasn't been defined.
Okay.
I think that's where the some of the problem comes in with a lot of this stuff is we're trying to get things out so quickly. I mean, everybody on this call knows as well as I do that everything changes by every 10 minutes here. But to this point, we just haven't gotten clarification. Again, going back to you will not outsource or offshore.
Right.
I asked that question to a congressman, a U.S. congressman, and the answer was, as of now, it could be interpreted that way, although I don't think we intended for it to be interpreted that way. Obviously, intentions are well done until they're interpreted a way that we don't want them to be.
Right. I got you. Okay. Well, cool, man. This is really, really good information. I appreciate the insights on that. And it's going to be interesting to see how this flushes out. You and I hadn't had a chance to really dig into much, but we went through, and I've been really candid with all the folks on these calls about sort of what our process has been, because companies are saying, well, is this PPP thing a reality? Is it really working? Is anybody getting anything from it? We went through the process. We followed the guidance as it was recommended Friday week ago. They said, the loans are going to be available to apply for on Friday. We applied on Friday night. Everything went through. And this past Friday afternoon, we got approval that everything went through. And then by 7:00 Friday evening, all the funds were in our bank account. So ours got completely funded through the deal. We got a really good relationship with our bankers too. So that, I believe that kind of helped things a little bit. But and again, that is just to let people know that these things are being processed and they're working like mad trying to make stuff happen. So it's not a super easy process. I think mine got pushed back 5 or 6 times with additional data needed and that sort of thing. So it was been pretty interesting kind of going through that process. But well, awesome, Jamie. I really do appreciate you being a part of this call today, and want to open the call up for anybody that's got any questions for Jamie. I mean, I know he brought a lot of good stuff to the table, and want to give you guys a chance to give Jamie a question or two. Who's got the first question? Jamie, Sloan, you got anything you picking your brain, man?
Well, just the potential neutrality clause for unionization if you basically take part in these PPP loans. We did put ours in obviously late last week. I believe it's been approved, waiting for the funds to be dispersed. But if there's any direction or guidance that can be given in terms of where we can go for further information on that or clarification, that'd be great, because naturally I can see a monstrous effort pushed by unions for additional unionization and across all of Georgia or the country for that matter. So any direction there, or if we can be steered towards where we can look up more on that, that would be great.
Well, Sloan, are you over 500 employees?
Thank God, no.
You're
okay.
3.
Okay, good to know. So over 500 only then.
That's a mid-size.
Correct. So they define mid-size as 500 to 10,000. So if you're under 500, then they're actually that piece, those 3 provisional pieces of that are left out of small business.
Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Sliding right over there. And Sloan, that the document that I shared with you yesterday, did that help kind of clarify on some of your area?
Yeah, it was encouraging in that we were pretty much doing all of what was laid out there, but it was nice to kind of get that basically 10-minute crash course in terms of what you should be doing. It's in essence a summation of what you can find on the CDC website for businesses' response plan for COVID-19, and it was pretty spot on. I recommend if anyone hasn't seen it yet, that's like I said, forward it, review it, forward it to others if they're curious. But frankly, we believe we're doing most of those efforts, and actually most, not all of them. And yeah, pretty nice to get that 10-minute overview of what ultimately a business should be doing.
Okay, perfect, Sloan. I appreciate that. Yeah. So what we were talking about on the call yesterday, there's safety protocols that are coming back for companies that are going through a variety of different stages in their business, whether they had somebody just preparing their stations for work, what are the OSHA guidance and that sort of thing, and all the way through. If you go through a shutdown, what does sanitization really look like? So Georgia Tech reached out to us and sent us some information that they were working. They've got a OSHA program that they've had for years, that they help companies go through OSHA qualifications and certifications. And I've gotten some feedback over the years that if you plug into that free program, that whatever recommendations they make, you have to do to be able to maintain and stay part of that. If they identify some stuff, and some of that's been a little more aggressive than some of the companies that I've talked to really wanted to play with after they got started. So it's kind of just be cautious on anything that you sign up with, especially through the education or the academic community. For free programs, there tends to be some extra stipulations. I'll just put it like that. But they did produce a really cool video that talked about, what are the OSHA processes for maintaining a clean environment, directly related to the coronavirus. It's about a 45, 50-minute video. The last, if you advance up to about minute 30, that really is where you dig in with the meat of the content. The rest of it's pretty good, but that's really, the application of the rules and what you can do. So we're going to share that again on this call, and we'll put it in the show notes. Koki and I, Koki finished up all the show notes from yesterday, and I'll put that in the post today, so that you'll be able to link to it both from this call and from the one yesterday. So I'm glad that was helpful. Sloan, because we had.
If I can add real quick about the Georgia Tech OSHA, we did actually take advantage of that about 5 years ago during a OSHA inspection, and we did employ Georgia Tech to then come in and offer advice and guidance, and that was extremely helpful because we basically were challenging what OSHA was saying that we must be doing for safe practices on press brakes with regards to laser guarding or light guards. And Georgia Tech came in, they said, well, no, actually tie down is performing everything in their power to mitigate these concerns. And basically OSHA, after that, we're looking at a really hefty fine that pretty much went entirely away. So they can be very valuable at the same time. To your point, if they see something that they obviously is not per OSHA, they'll notify that you must rectify it. I think it's up to a 6-month time frame is about the maximum. And if you don't do it by that time, then they will notify OSHA, and you'll be looking at probably a pretty substantial fine at that point.
Right. So just be aware, and thanks for that live testimonial, Sloan, because that matters a lot. That's why we do this, is to share best practices and to share what's working and what's not. So, well, good stuff. Oh, I do want to bring on one of our safety experts, Mr. Roger Grabman. I know we've leaned on you on sharing some safety insights. And anything you'd like to add from what we've had so far in the conversation?
I did see a blog this morning from an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
There is a number of lawsuits being filed for wrongful injury or death against employers.
Okay.
Due to corona. Some attorneys are attempting to bypass workman's comp.
Interesting.
For them, there's a bit of a higher payout. They can demand a jury trial. Juries tend to pay higher than judges. Workers' comp cases, if they go to a hearing, are in front of a judge rather than a jury. I seem to see something about it, a quicker payout. Well, maybe that's on the category of green mail. But that's a bit of a, not necessarily a good trend.
Yep.
The qualification would have to be that it was a willful exposure. And the blog had some recommendations. So if it's an issue, it's like, there are some attorneys that provide information.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Very cool. Interesting. Yeah, I think there's going to be, under the safety side, as long as companies are doing, their everything in their power, like Sloan said, if they're doing everything in their power to make sure that they, take care of their employees and are going through these processes, I believe that the legal system will be taking that into account, more maybe than maybe in the past. We will have a legal call. We actually got tomorrow. We'll be doing a call with Costangi, Brooks, and Profit. Really excited about having those guys on the team with us. And on Thursday, we've got one focused around finance, but we're also going to be talking about kind of some of the legal sides on the finance side, and we're going to be doing that with our buddies over at Taylor English. So got a great week lined up, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can learn from those. But now what I want to do is I just want to really open the call up and have you guys share a little bit about what's going on in your space. What's what are you seeing? What are you hearing out there in the marketplace? I mean, does anybody have any insights or thoughts around when we might be getting all clear to get back to a little bit of normal? Anybody want to read the tea leaves that they got in front of them? Sloan, what are you thinking, bro?
I mean, that's the not $10 million question is when are we going to get back into full scale work again? Personally, I think it's going to happen a little bit sooner than later. I really do, in terms of them permitting like certain areas to basically start coming back to work. I think what was pretty surprising was I was expecting more people to potentially not show up today after we notified everyone that basically we had our first confirmed COVID case, and the attendance was no different today than it was yesterday. Actually, we had more people show up today.
Wow.
So that's encouraging, and if we can, especially by end of today, at that point it would have been right at a 5-day exposure limit, and if the people that were potentially exposed or near this individual do not show any symptoms since they've gone into quarantine, then at that point it is our knowledge and understanding that they have not contracted the virus and in essence can come back to work tomorrow. So we're going to make sure that we do our due diligence there and ensure that is the case. But right now that's kind of our tentative plan, and that's actually very encouraging to know that if we had a confirmed case yet there were no other people that then contracted it. So with that, I think other people going through potentially similar situations, and I think and basically people having that assurance provides them basically the ability to feel comfortable to go back to work, and that message will just only spread, I believe, within our communities and the country as a whole.
Right.
That's why I feel confident we're going to be, I think, getting back to the swing of things sooner than later. I don't think this is a late May or that. I really think that we're potentially looking at the end of the month for a lot more people going back to work.
Okay.
Gut instinct.
I love that. So you guys had a confirmed case, and then y'all gone through the process on cleaning and sanitizing the area. You want to share with us just a little bit about what that looked like, and any pointers for any other companies that may be bumping up against that, or where did you get some additional resources that were helpful in that process?
Well, frankly, what you also provided yesterday was a nice confirmation of what are actually deemed as safe practices for cleaning and sanitizing. I think a lot of people think that, well, if you go and you use your standard cleaning type of solutions, that you're just good to go. Well, actually, they show waiting periods after you apply it and clean. And we're fortunate where this occurred, and for HIPAA purposes, I'm not disclosing exactly where this did happen in our company. That's also very important. The first thing that probably people began asking when they found out about the case was, who is it? What department? Right? And we're like, guys, it's hard. It's difficult. But we can't do that. But frankly, it's easy for people to find out just through the normal company rumor mill, so to speak. I mean, but you're just not going to get that confirmation from upper management. We just can't do that. But everyone knew where it was. So what we did do was effectively shut that entire department down. Basically, late Thursday is when we believe that there may be a pending positive case. It was not a confirmed case. It was a potentially pending positive. Okay. The individual actually was a daughter that first contracted it, that worked over at Delta, believe it or not. And this actually may be helpful for people. She was showing all the symptoms, and through health insurance, through a standard doctor, it was determined, well, are you really in distress? They didn't want to burn up a test for her, basically. Right. A little unfortunate. And she informed Delta this, and Delta actually came in and helped out and sent her and actually helped her with getting approval to go to where they're doing that quick test at CBS over by Georgia Tech, where you can get the results in 10, 15 minutes. And once she received that, then basically her parent, was, well, heck, my daughter lives with me. I'm concerned that I may have already had contracted this. So we were informed of that. We immediately, again, shut that department down. The people that were in that department said, go ahead and quarantine yourselves. And right now it seems that quick action seems to have been paying off. Fingers crossed by the end of the day. We've heard from all the people that are in that department as of this morning that they are not showing symptoms. They feel fine. So I think we're going to be in the clear. And that goes a long way in terms of getting back into some sort of normalcy, in that, well, if someone else now contracts this after this 5-day period, it happened outside of the company, right? And I think people understand, knowing that, well, if I'm going to go into my workspace and I have that high degree of confidence that there's not people that are potentially infected in that area, then again, that's why we have more people that showed up today than we did yesterday in terms of being out. So those are pretty encouraging results in my view.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions along along those lines or on that front? Okay. The one other thing I want to also kind of reflect back on in terms of last week, a lot of people are really insisting on wanting PPE. They want masks. We've had our suppliers on the safety side, I'm sorry, not suppliers, but our customers on the that we supply safety products to, primary fall protection, ask us, hey, can you help us out at all with getting a hold of masks and sourcing masks from overseas? And we've actually found sources, but right now we are not going through with actually trying to rush potential supply of masks into the country, because frankly, we believe that there's going to be a brewing just uproar on these whole KN95 type masks.
Yep.
Anyone that's, and actually I have a few of them here, if anyone's ever worn the N95 style mask, we're all familiar with this guy, right? The legitimate 3M one.
Right.
This is what is considered an N95 mask from China.
No way.
Completely different, right? There's no moldings. There's very little of like a nose spring guard, that type thing. So what, we're getting flooded with these N95s per China cert, and healthcare workers and everything, like, they do not fit properly. They fit nothing compared to what these are, but basically medical workers and people like in industry are used to. Now, what CDC has deemed acceptable for the time being, given the limited supplies, are the KN95 style masks. And do these technically work in terms of being able to filter out 95% of 0.3 micron particulate? Sure, I guess so, if it's worn properly and everything. But when you then receive this, was a KN95, only a 3-ply type mask, this literally feels like paper. And I think, again, there's going to be a huge backlash potentially on these style masks, especially with just the sheer prices that they're charging for these things. They want money all up front. They're not guaranteeing, even if you try to do it through Alibaba, they're not doing trade assurance to qualify for, the order. So there's a lot of stories out there right now of people that basically have been completely ripped off in trying to source these masks. And so we basically have done gentlemen, we basically had over 500,000 pending mask orders if we're able to supply them. Guys, we can't do it. Right. We just don't feel comfortable. So again, that's something we've had to work on a lot lately. But kind of back to Mr. Roger, what you shared last week. Go ahead.
Is there a problem with counterfeiting?
Absolutely. There's absolutely. They can supply you with certificates or pictures of certificates from their government, FDA, CE approval, but you just absolutely don't know if those are legitimate.
Right.
And frankly, the first thing that I would do in terms of qualifying these, if they actually did come in, is, well, run a particulate test. Do they actually work? And that's a huge question mark. I mean, there's no guarantee of that right now. So, I mean, I'm obviously there are established vendors in China for these, but again, it's completely different than what we've been producing here stateside forever. So perception is everything. People that may have been receiving these masks, they all of a sudden receive this one at double or triple the price, would probably only cost 20 cents at most to make this. It's going to be bad, I think. So I would caution people in terms of going out and trying to either establish a source or do it, because right now we actually spent a lot of work doing that with just a big upheaval from people trying to want masks from last week. And again, Roger, I really appreciate you reminding everybody that that's literally PPE should be the absolute last mitigation effort for staying safe during this whole thing. And we've communicated that, and there's a whole lot of people out there in the factory floor that aren't wearing masks because, again, we don't have that supply. So now we did go ahead just for, being able to offer some assurance and comfort. We ordered 5,000 masks just so we can have here. And if people want to make use of them or they want to be able to give them to their friends, that's fine. But we're not going out there and buying 250,000, 500,000 masks. But that's actually what we were potentially looking at.
Right.
And also, once you receive your money, that just puts you in the queue. There's absolutely no guarantee in terms of when you're going to actually have your shipment even leave the country.
Right.
And there's one old rule that I always like to tell people. It's kind of the golden rule with working with China. It's that money goes one direction. It goes in, it never comes back out.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And the other piece that kind of got me a little concerned with, with the KN, certifications is, how long does the virus stay live in fabric? That was the other piece is like, and I'll be, again, super transparent with you guys. We've developed these fancy dancy koozies. I mean, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but this is a mock-up of the koozies that we've had made for Manufacturing Life. We've had a couple people join our Manufacturing Life Club, which is cool. And I called the guys, and it's a 24-hour koozie company. And I said, where are you guys located? They said, we're based in Houston, Texas. Fantastic. That's what I'm like. How fast can you get them? We can get them to you in a week. Custom koozies. Wonderful. Fantastic. Well, they sent me the UPS track or the FedEx tracking number, and they were coming from freaking China. I was livid. The guy did say we're based in Houston, but he didn't say they were produced in Houston, but they came out of China, and it was a long way from Wuhan. And I looked at the map, and I'm like, we're all at, the package came through, but honesty is always the best policy, I believe. But so I've got those things quarantined at the house in the store because I don't know how long. I mean, I can't find any guidance really. The video helped a little bit, but they weren't clear on how long they project the virus stays live on fabric. And maybe Brian, you could help us out. Maybe talk to Sophia and get a little bit of insight on what her thoughts are about how long it lasts in fabric, especially if you're putting a mask. If you're ordering masks that you're going to put on your face and breathe through, really, I mean, how confident do you have in the quality of the materials and the supply chain and what they're using? Even if they did create some actual good quality masks, could we be importing, and I know that's maybe conspiracy theory, but could we be importing those products in the virus on packages that were being delivered? Because I mean, like I said, I tracked that thing with FedEx from the time it left the factory. It hit 2 stops on FedEx in China, 1 in Japan, and then here. And when I went and picked it up, I asked the girl behind the desk at the FedEx, I said, you got any gloves or anything? She's like, trust me, honey. She said, if it's coming, we all got it. So if it's coming in on packages, because there's so many products that are coming in through international trade, still. But all right. Well, all that said, we're going to hose down all of the koozies with Lysol and let them stand for a couple of days before we send any of them out. Just so you know, we're going to do our best, our dead level best. Wesley was like, he said, wouldn't it be a shame if you killed off all of your top supporters with a koozie? I'm like, that's just not even right. So we're going to be cautious with it. We're going to figure that out. But we will give you guidance before we send any out. We'll check through a couple of folks to make sure that they're cool to send. But they are really cool, and they do fit a beer really well because I tried one and then I washed my hands. But with that, I do want to kind of open this up. James, do you have anything you want to add about some of the stuff? Sloan, again, thank you so much for sharing, real live examples of what you're doing. And thank you for taking care of you folks, because I know that that's the mindset philosophy you guys have got there at Tie Down. And sharing that insight with these folks and the people that will be watching it in the future, that means a lot. And so thanks for that share for sure. All right, Mr. James, do you have anything you'd like to add on kind of some of the stuff we talked about so far?
I'm just going to piggyback on what you just said. And I think it was Mark Cuban actually made a pretty good comment where he said that how companies respond to this and treat their people via this crisis and how they manage it is going to define your company's reputation and culture for a very long time.
Yes.
And so I definitely applaud Sloan's leadership and outlook on this issue. And I think that that's just something that all of our employers in the state of Georgia and around the country need to keep in mind, that this is not something that is just here today or short term. However we get through this is one thing, but your employees are going to remember how this was handled moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point, Jamie. I really appreciate you bringing that to light. And I mean, I believe that and on all these calls I've shared my insights on it. We are all in this thing together. I would really encourage everybody that's on this call, if you're a person of faith, that you need to be praying for the folks that are in leadership, both at a local level in your community, at the state level for our governor and his team, and for our president, because all of them are having to make some really, really tough decisions. I know I'd hate to be in their role, having to make the decisions that they're having to make, but they're making them. They're making tough decisions that are impacting a lot of lives, and so we got to just make sure that we stand behind them, and we don't have to agree with everything that they do, but we don't need to get in the way of it either, unless we see that it's it flies against everything that we see as accurate. But we got to give them input, and we got to give and give them support through this. Your employees, man, you got to love on these folks, and I believe that communication is critical. You got to make sure that you continue to communicate and maybe over communicate. That's the piece that I've talked to all of the executive leaders that I've talked with in manufacturing. They're saying that that's where they're getting most of their positive feedback from their team, is the level of communication that's being shared. Again, I'm gonna take that 24-hour Q&A plan and share that with a couple other folks I think would really benefit from it. So at GMA, that we're here, our goal is to help support and grow manufacturing through the state of Georgia. Our mission hadn't changed. Our tools have, using Zoom, is we're getting comfortable with it, maybe not good at it, but at least comfortable with it. And we're archiving all of these calls. And again, Koki, thank you so much for your fantastic job of capturing the information on this. So she writes out the show notes and the key points that are covered. And then we include that in the post. Yes. Thank you, Roger. But those are included for people to be able to plug back into and then send back out to review. So if there's anybody that you're currently working with that you feel would benefit from any of the parts that are shared on this call, make sure that you share this post with them. It'll be up later today with all the information, and pass this around. Let folks share it. I mean, this is a resource. We've got tons of interviews that we've done and all the roundtables that we've done up to date. We've done at least one call every day for the past 3 weeks. So there's some great content that's covered. And we also want to know if there are things that you want us to cover that we hadn't talked about. Add those in the show notes, send us an email, let us know, if there's other ways that we can serve you. If there's anything that we can do in addition to what we're doing now, we need your ideas, your inputs, and your guidance on how we can be better serving the manufacturing community. We're doing all we can do, but we can only do as good as what we can come up with inside this office. You as manufacturers got to share with us, what do you need? And we're gonna work real hard to make sure that we fill that. So, all right. So we're gonna take okay. So John L said maybe have a rep from OSHA. Great idea. We'll see what we can do about that. I'm gonna do this. So if you got your camera, if you ain't got your camera turned on, go ahead and turn your camera on. We're gonna take a real quick picture. Everybody smile. Look this way. Everybody smile. All right, we're gonna do our traditional smile and wave. Jamie, I know that you're smiling and waving through your phone. But we'll include that in the show notes. And guys, thanks again for that. We got a call on Thursday. On Wednesday on legal, Thursday on finance, and Friday is Fun Friday, where it's just a social thing where we just get together and kind of shoot the breeze. And I'm gonna open the call up, and what I'd like to do is kind of get your feedback on what your favorite part about this call was. I'm gonna open it up with Mr. Brian Weber. What I know you've been able to plug into several of these calls. What's your favorite part about the day or the call so far?
Well, I had to skip out a couple of times. My apologies, but someone kind of hit on what I'm triggering, and that is trust between management and labor right now. It is really a key that labor understand that management's doing everything it can to ensure its safety and their jobs down the road. So someone mentioned that kind of language, and I think that's really what's going to matter, because the labor market's going to shrink. There's no doubt about it. Management's going to use this as an opportunity to shrink it to the right size. Mm-hmm. And those who, I guess, have a greater trust among, the group is going to do better. I got an answer on your beer cozies. The answer is 2 to 3 days and twice that to be safe.
Okay.
So So anything that's plastic or, seat fabrics, OEMs bringing in seats for cars and all that stuff.
Okay.
Vinyl, plastic, not metal, but anything that's vinyl, plastic, polyester, made from petroleum products, I guess.
Cool. We got them last Friday, so they should be nice and safe. I'm going to try one out. I'm going to probably hose the bag down with Lysol too inside of it. So if your koozie smells a little bit like Lysol, it was done with love, just so you know. But I appreciate that, Brian, for sure. All right, Mr. John, what's your favorite part about it today? Take away. Oh, okay, can't hear you. That's it. Okay, John. Yeah, it sounds like we had a little feedback pretty bad. All right, we'll hop over to Koki. Koki, what's your favorite part about the call?
Today there were a lot of facts and best practices, which was really good. And Sloan, excuse me, thank you for telling us your story about your affected employee. And my question was going to be, under HIPAA, were you allowed to announce the employee's name or where they work? But you already answered that. Another thing was Jamie with his PPP for mid-sized companies. I thought PPP was only for 500 or less employees, but that was a good comment on the items to look for that are stipulations under the loan protection program. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect, Koki. All right, Mr. Jamie.
Well, I mean, I'm always happy to see everyone. I am, I liked the post that I saw on social media that said, check on your extrovert friends. They're not okay. And I'm certainly in that mix, not being able to see people and shake hands and see people face to face every day is certainly taking its toll on me. And one other thing I wanted to point out is I did put the link to the legal article in the chat. And one thing I wanted to clarify is that it does state that a loan via the CARES Act, which would encompass PPE, but that would probably encompass several other loans that are available through CARES.
Okay.
But I did put the link in, so if anybody wants to see that, certainly pull it up. And I really appreciate everyone's time.
Well, Jamie, I appreciate that for sure. For sure. All right. Good deal. All right. Miss John L.
Hey.
Hey.
Well, you always know how to put a good webinar together there, Jason. And I really do appreciate Mr. Jamie sharing all that most wonderful information. I'm thinking about a few people myself I need to update about some of the ideas that Jamie was sharing. But it's just interesting to see how so many most important manufacturers that we have in our community, and to see how everybody's weathering this pandemic scenario. It's just amazing that like Mr. Salone, having to cordon off a certain area and hose it down. It's like, wow, I forgot about OSHA. And now they have new requirements that people got to jump through.
Yep.
The day and the age and the era of COVID-19, just make it stop, please.
Yes, I'm all with you on that for sure. All right, Mr. Sloan, you have anything else you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, Jamie, thank you for all your comments. And frankly, my favorite part about today is just knowing that our employee that is confirmed with the case is doing better today. That's the best news that I can possibly have.
Awesome. That is awesome. Were they hospitalized or were they just?
They were not. No, they were stayed home, and also they're recovering at home. They were rough last night, but they feel better today and they're breathing better. And that's fantastic. That's a trend line we want to hear.
Yeah, for sure.
Prayer is definitely answered.
I love that. And we've got a company that was that was making hospital tents, basically hospital dividers. Georgia Expo, they do pipe and drape, and they were doing these expo dividers for hospital, pop-up hospital deals, and their orders have fallen off dramatically, almost to none, and they're transitioning over to manufacturing masks. I was thrilled to hear that yesterday on the task force call. So I think the trend lines in manufacturing are going in the right direction. So the national demand for pop-up hospital tents going down and masks are going up, which is a good thing. All right, Mike, share with us a little bit. What's your favorite part about today?
I appreciate the story. I appreciate hearing from others. You get a little myopic when you're isolated, as we have all pretty much been, and not get to meet and get together in a group as we usually like to do. So being able to share the information, getting some of the information, especially Sloan's presentation on the masks and being heavily invested in things like that when it comes to safety and PPE in our business, getting a variable perspective from the group here is of great interest to me. And at least being able to give feedback on that and hearing other people provide their stories about how they're surviving and getting by during these times and circumstances is a great appreciation for me.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you for being on the call with us for sure. All right, Mr. Roger, what was your favorite part about the call?
We're hearing about the effect on the mid-sized companies.
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting. The thing about reaching out to your introvert friends, because they're the ones most in danger.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm thinking about is the stereotype of engineers, so we are safer.
I got a bunch of safe engineers. I love that. I tell you that reaching out to the extroverts is true. My wife is like, "Leave me alone, quit." I mean, if you guys don't know me, I'm a big hugger, so we're coping in our own way.
Do you know how do you tell an extrovert engineer from an introvert engineer?
Tell us.
An introvert engineer, when he's talking to you, is staring at your shoes instead of his shoes.
I love it. That's the extrovert looking to stretch your way on out there. All right, Mr. Goldman, what was your favorite part about the call today?
Well, I did join a little late. For some reason, I thought the call was starting at 2 o'clock this afternoon like the other calls had. But I think it's really important that the stories get shared as we're going through this pandemic because, what we're seeing, in any of our media sources is only going to be so accurate and so precise. So I think that the personal element, the personal factor that we're going to get from sharing these stories, I think is going to be crucial.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Well, again, feel free to share this as much as you can with whoever you feel will benefit from it as well. So thanks again for being on the call. All right, Ms. Brittany, what was your favorite part about the call?
Hey, everybody. I guess I'd have to second, I think Brian had mentioned it, just about the mask and learning about those and how we're really, taking the right action on being, safe with it all, and the mask, if they're washable, if they're not, how many masks do you go through a day, and do you need to, throw those away or wash them? It's like knowing all the right things. And then the other day having that phone call about learning that, possibly lives on the shoes, and do you need to wear things over the shoes, and just learning all the things that, it takes into being clean about it and making sure that, you're safe about it. So Sloan was great. I loved his presentation for sure. So I appreciate that. Jamie, you as well.
Perfect. Jamie, we got to work on Jamie's camera. Get that light
Yes.
lit up soon. All right, Miss Heather, what was your favorite part about the call?
Okay, so this is crazy, but we had this conversation this morning, kind of reflecting to Sloan, your little demonstration of the mask are awesome, because I'm one of these people to make impulse buys and the sense of urgency, like, oh my God, we gotta have them. And you could have wasted a ton of money, because I don't know that I would feel comfortable wearing those 2 other little samples you had there. You might as well just not wear anything. So it's good to see what those are for everyone, to kind of get an idea and make at least a sensible judgment call on whether or not you should order those masks from wherever they came from. But that was really good. I liked seeing those. There are different options there.
That's cool. Well, yeah, Roger. Mm-hmm.
Most people think in terms of a mask of keeping healthy people healthy by filtering out viruses coming in. But for those who are having a coughing or sneezing problem, it keeps the stuff contained.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah,
like
well-
walking around with a handkerchief on your face. And for that role, even a T-shirt around your face serves that function, although they don't serve a lot of function as filtering going in.
Right. Well, I went to Publix the other day. First time I've been in a grocery store in a while. And I happened to have some N95 mask, and I put one on, and I did figure out pretty quick I needed a mint. Just saying. So be careful. Some of them, the real ones, work really well. But with that, I figured, hey, we might as well share the reality, right? I went immediately to the mint aisle and purchased some mints before I finished my shopping. But with that, guys, it has been great. Thank you all so much for being part of this day and sharing the information that you shared, being part of the community. Again, whatever we can be doing for you guys, we are here to serve. Tell us how we can be of assistance for you. We got great calls lined up for the balance of the week. Make sure you share those with your friends. Invite them to come hang out with us. It's been another great day at GMA. We'll see you guys on our next call. Take care, guys. Thanks.